I'm giving you 3 seconds to let go of the door before I detain you." My sister said it with the calm of someone ordering a coffee, while a 48-year-old woman named Karen Whitmore screamed like a banshee and tugged on her car door like she was trying to pull a demon out of a sedan. Karen had no idea about two things right then. One, my sister had just wrapped up a 3-month undercover sting tracking gun runners across state lines. And two, behind that raised brow was a whole storm of federal power waiting to drop. And me? I stood across the street, jaw dropped, gripping a grocery bag full of avocados and frozen pizza, debating whether to start filming or start praying. Let me backtrack. 2 weeks earlier, my sister, Jade Monroe, moved into my neighborhood. She said she needed a break. Burnout. Just a couple months. Low-key. She tossed her go bag on my guest room floor like she'd just returned from the edge of the earth. I didn't ask. You don't question someone who has 2 passports and keeps burner phones sorted by state. You just give them the Wi-Fi password and hope no one asks why she always picks the seat with a view of the exit. Now, I live in East Haven Springs, the kind of neighborhood where cul-de-sacs come with HOA surveillance and residents argue about lawn gnome placement. It's all beige fences, trimmed lawns, and mailbox regulations. And patrolling it like a sheriff with a clipboard is Karen Whitmore. Karen prints out Facebook posts and organizes them in binders. Actual binders. I once saw her scold a squirrel for damaging her fall decor. That's the energy. The moment Karen laid eyes on Jade, something snapped. Jade didn't check any of Karen's boxes. She had tattoos. She drove a blacked-out Charger that growled like it needed a warning label. She wore sunglasses after dark and didn't smile at bake sales. Worst crime of all, she parked on the street, in front of her own house. But according to Karen, that curb is shared property, which means she thinks it's hers. It didn't take long for Karen to strike. I was folding laundry when I heard the yelling. Not just yelling, Karen-level yelling, all high-pitched rage and suburban righteousness. I rushed outside and caught her leaning halfway into Jade's window, fingers flying and screeching about community bylaws and vehicle positioning. Jade sat in the driver's seat, sipping iced coffee and scrolling her phone like this happened every Thursday. Which, honestly, it might. And then Karen did it. She grabbed the door handle. Jade locked it. Karen yanked harder. I dropped my pizza. Jade looked up and calmly delivered the line that would later explode across 7 different social platforms. "You have 3 seconds to let go before I detain you." Karen laughed. A deep, mocking laugh. "Detain me? What are you, mall security?" she sneered. Jade stepped out of the car. "Now, here's what people don't expect. My sister's not built like your standard federal agent. She's 5 feet 6 inches, lean, and moves with the kind of stillness that makes people nervous. She looks more like a bar instructor than someone who could disarm a hostel with a pin cap and a magazine." So Karen stayed smug, right up until Jade pulled a slim black wallet from her back pocket and flipped it open. U.S. Marshal's badge. I swear the whole block went 10 degrees colder. Karen blinked hard. You could see her brain trying to reboot. This wasn't part of the HOA handbook. She released the door like it burned. "You're serious?" she stammered. Jade didn't blink. She pulled a zip tie from her jacket. "Turn around, ma'am." Karen shrieked. And just like that, we had ourselves a block party. Mrs. Donnelly peeked through her blinds. Mr. Huang cracked open his garage and stared from behind a rake. A kid on a scooter stopped mid-kick. Karen screeched about rights and conspiracies and lawsuits. But within seconds, Jade had her zip-tied on the lawn, sitting there like a kid in timeout. It was graceful, like folding a fitted sheet with precision. Then Jade said, "You have the right to remain silent. I recommend using it." Should have won her an Emmy. By the time the local cops showed up, Karen was sobbing on the grass, mascara streaked, ranting about social media moderators and deep state agendas. Jade flashed her badge, gave a short statement, and walked back inside like she'd just watered the plants. No big deal. Just another Tuesday. Later that night, a neighbor's ring cam footage made its way on his social media. Within 4 hours, it cracked 1 million views. By sunrise, suburban Karen versus U.S. Marshal was trending worldwide. There were edits everywhere. One had a dubstep drop. Another transformed Karen's screams into a full-blown opera. Jade, completely unfazed. She sipped her coffee, stretched in the backyard, and muttered, she had it coming. But that viral moment? It was just the spark. Because if there's one thing Karen Whitmore doesn't do, it's back down. She wasn't finished. Not even close. The next time she came for my sister, she didn't come alone. Karen wasn't about to let something like public humiliation derail her. A normal person might have done some soul-searching, baked banana bread, moved on. But Karen? She let that shame fester inside her like a sun-baked cactus. She hadn't gone viral for any good reason, not for a community cause, not even for her Halloween displays. No, she became internet famous for getting zip-tied on her lawn by the same woman she once called a mall cop. And the internet? It went wild. Meme accounts went full throttle. Someone printed a t-shirt that read, "You have 3 seconds to let go before I detain you," with a cartoon Karen flailing underneath. Another remix, titled Federal Funk Down, featured her banshee-level screeching over bass drops. 6 million downloads. By day 3, Karen had locked all her socials and called the local news to tell her side. They aired the segment, with laugh tracks edited in. She called her lawyer the next morning. This was war now. Karen saw herself as a suburban patriot, a moral warrior, standing alone against outsiders and creeping government overreach. To her, Jade wasn't a protector. She was chaos in a badge. Karen started documenting every move. If Jade went out, came home, got a package, Karen took notes like she was prepping a Netflix true crime series. She even got binoculars. Not regular ones, military grade. She'd sip decaf on the porch, scribbling in a notepad, watching Jade like a low-budget spy. My favorite part? When she tried tailing Jade in her Subaru, only to get stuck behind a school bus while Jade casually ghosted her through a roundabout. But it didn't stop there. Karen went full thermonuclear. She stormed into the HOA office with a manila envelope stuffed with screenshots, blurry photos, and a list of Jade's crimes, including parking too close to the curb, having her trash cans out too early, and, no joke, radiating bad vibes into the community. The HOA chair, Mr. Reynolds, calmly asked her to leave. She called him a deep state puppet. Then she got litigious. She filed a civil complaint claiming Jade committed assault, impersonated law enforcement, and inflicted irreparable social trauma. The filing was riddled with typos and came with meme screenshots as evidence. Her lawyer, who also owned a vape shop, sent Jade a cease and desist letter in Comic Sans. Jade printed it, laminated it, and used it as a drink coaster. What Karen didn't realize, she'd poked a very real bear. In her attempt to destroy Jade, she hired someone. Enter Lenny, low-light, Ferris, a private investigator with a 2.3-star Yelp rating and a mustache that looked like it was glued on during a blackout. He was shady, broke, and desperate. In short, the worst possible person for Karen to write a check to. Lenny started following Jade. Subtlety wasn't his thing. By day 2, Jade spotted him. She noticed the busted Corolla with the missing hubcap parked 3 blocks down and said, "You think that guy's with Karen?" I looked over and saw Lenny trying to balance a camera in one hand and a burrito in the other. Jade didn't confront him. She just waved every time she passed. It drove him up the wall. But somehow, in his half-baked attempts, Lenny found something. He started digging into Jade's background. He hit walls, classified files, redacted lines. But he caught a hint. Jade was on administrative leave. Officially, that tiny detail was all Karen needed to spiral. She printed off vague federal documents she barely understood and marched around the block yelling that she had exposed the truth. To her, Jade was now a fraud, a plant, a failed government experiment. The real story? Way more complicated. Yes, Jade was on leave. But not for anything Karen imagined. She wasn't under review. She was recovering from an op that went sideways. One of their informants, Santiago Vega, had vanished in the middle of a 3-state gun trafficking operation. And just when Jade was about to extract him, he vanished. No heads up, no signal, no trace left behind. And now, while Karen and Lenny stumbled through rants about parking violations and bizarre conspiracy theories, the name Santiago popped up again, right here in East Haven Springs. It was Jade who spotted it first. A car parked just a few houses down looked too familiar. Same make, same paint scrape on the fender, but a different plate. Still, her gut screamed at her. She called someone at the bureau. A few hours later, confirmation came in. The vehicle was linked to a bogus address Vega had used during infiltration ops. The same signal that had gone dark for months was now blinking. Here, in our suburb. That changed everything. Jade got pulled back in. Her higher-ups were hesitant, but curious. The timing felt too tight to be random. They gave her temporary clearance to investigate quietly. She didn't tell me at first, but I could see it in her. Her focus sharpened. She got quiet, checked her car every time before leaving, started carrying her badge again, tucked beneath her hoodie. Meanwhile, Karen thought she was winning. She believed her harassment was working. She started bragging that the deep state had yanked Jade back for reprogramming. Held a town meeting at the clubhouse with a full PowerPoint presentation on federal surveillance and mind control via lawnmowers. 2 people showed. One was just looking for the bathroom. But behind all that Karen chaos, something real was unfolding. Lenny's little investigation shifted from ridiculous to risky. While trying to snap shots of Jade supposedly stealing Wi-Fi, he unknowingly caught someone else. A man offloading gear from a landscaping truck. Gear that triggered Jade the moment she saw it. Not the equipment, the face. A known associate of Santiago Vega. The landscaping company, Green Horizons, wasn't just laying mulch. They were moving money, coding messages and invoices, using fake gardening requests as drop points. Jade connected it fast. Everything hidden right under Karen's binocular-ridden nose. By the end of the week, Jade wasn't just decompressing anymore. She was activated, fully operational. And as she kept digging, something chilling came into focus. Karen, annoying, obsessive, borderline dangerous, had unknowingly kicked over a hornet's nest. Her wild campaign had stirred up just enough dust to bring something real to the surface. Something dangerous. The best part? Karen still thought she was in charge. Still believed she was exposing Jade. Still saw herself as the heroine of her own HOA thriller. But the truth? She'd lit a match right beside a fuse she couldn't see, and it was ticking. At exactly 3:42 a.m., I found Jade barefoot in the kitchen, staring at a corkboard covered in maps, photos, scribbled notes. Spoonful of peanut butter frozen halfway to her mouth. Her eyes were locked on a blurry screenshot from Lenny's photo, the landscaping truck in the background. A man with a tarp-wrapped bundle, lifting it mid-frame. Scar slicing across his eyebrow. She knew that scar. Leon Ortiz. Ex-merc. Courier for hire. Drugs, weapons, smuggling, whatever paid. And somehow, he was mowing lawns 3 houses down from us every other Wednesday. Jade didn't say much. She circled his face in red, stuck on a note. Santiago connection, then leaned back and gave a bitter laugh. Karen might have tripped into something bigger than HOA fines and neighborhood watch theatrics. She whispered, "Guess I'm back on the clock." By 8 a.m., she'd made 2 encrypted calls, packed her go bag, and peeled out in the Charger like she was chasing ghosts. She didn't tell me much, just what I needed to stay safe. And one instruction: if you see the Green Horizons truck, text me. No questions. Just a photo and where. I nodded. Try not to freak out. Because even with her calm, Jade didn't look like someone easing back into a job. She looked like someone going to war. What made it eerie was how normal everything looked. Kids on scooters. Sprinklers ticking. Lawns neatly trimmed. Nothing seemed out of place. Karen, of course, was stomping around like she'd won some invisible battle, loudly telling anyone within earshot that the feds had pulled their agent thanks to her persistence. She even made laminated flyers with "Never doubt the truth" printed in bold, handing them out like coupons at the farmer's market. She had no clue what she'd really started. She was being watched, not just by Jade, but by people Jade hadn't even told me about yet. And it didn't take long for her gut feeling to be spot on. The landscaping crew came back. Same dented truck parked at the corner while 2 guys, Leon Ortiz among them, unloaded mulch bags onto the curb. Looked normal from a distance. But Jade had taught me to see the little giveaways. The way Leon kept glancing around, like he was checking for tails. How he wore gloves even when handling plastic hose. The guy holding a shovel who never actually dug. I snapped a photo and sent it. 30 seconds later, Jade replied, "Keep your distance. Do not engage. Eyes only." That night, she came home with a different kind of tension. Barely spoke through dinner. Just asked for the Wi-Fi again so she could plant a network tap. "They're running drop points from the yards," she said flatly. "The bags? Not mulch. Insulation foam lined with drug packets. They're using landscapers as mules for local drops and interstate shipments. This entire neighborhood, it's a staging zone." The more she dug, the clearer it got. Santiago Vega hadn't vanished. He'd flipped. Jade hadn't failed to extract him last mission. He'd defected. What followed was a blur. Jade quietly pulled in trusted agents. Nothing official, too early for that. Just enough backup to watch her six. Two unmarked vans started rotating at the subdivision entrance. Her partner Mendez posed as a pest control guy. And meanwhile, Karen, completely unaware, cranked the crazy up to 11. She installed a motion detector that blasted the national anthem if anyone got too close to her lawn. Hung neighborhood under siege signs all over her porch. She even accused the mailman of being part of a psyop. The breaking point came courtesy of a misdelivered package. Supposed to go to the landscapers, it ended up on Karen's doorstep. She opened it, of course she did, because in her mind, she was the queen of preventative neighborhood intelligence. Inside, 3 identical plastic garden frogs. Seemed harmless, but Jade spotted it right away. They were coded. Each frog had a serial number etched on the bottom, coordinates to drop sites. Karen thought they were surveillance tools. So naturally, she went full neighborhood Rambo. At 2:13 p.m., dressed in camo and wielding a garden rake, Karen marched down the street and charged into the Green Horizons yard, screaming about foreign assets and suburban infiltration. Leon Ortiz tried to play it cool, keep things calm. But Karen lunged, waving her rake like a weapon. And that's when it went down. The flash team had been ready. Jade was already sprinting when the alert came. Within 90 seconds, the DA, Jade, and 2 tactical units surrounded the property. Karen froze mid-scream, rake still in hand, dirt on her face. Leon stood still, stone-faced. Jade chased down a runner, trying to slip through the side gate. Another agent unearthed a duffel bag buried behind a shed, phones, heat-sealed bundles of cash. Karen got zip-tied, again, still ranting about mind control fertilizer. The rest of the crew gave up without a fight. Ortiz didn't resist, didn't say a word, just nodded, calm and weirdly resigned, as they put him in the van. The DA's team shot Jade a look, tight-lipped but clearly impressed. She'd taken down a multi-state operation that had gone under the radar for a year. All thanks to one suburban control freak losing her mind over a truck parked too close to her roses. That night, as the block settled and the red-blue lights finally faded, Jade joined me on the porch with a drink in hand. I asked if she was heading back to D.C. She smiled, soft and knowing. Eventually, but not yet. What's still off? I asked. That landscaping truck? She said. It's not the only one. And Vega's still out there. Across the street, Karen's house sat dark. No anthem. No motion lights. Just silence. For once, she had nothing to say. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. This wasn't the finale. This was the middle. And Vega? He was still waiting for his cue. The courtroom smelled like stale coffee, too much cologne, and tightly bottled rage. Karen Whitmore sat stiffly at the defendant's table, arms crossed, surrounded by a pile of manila folders and a legal pad scribbled top to bottom in aggressive all-caps handwriting. She had insisted on representing herself, something the judge clearly regretted the moment court began. Her glasses teetered on the edge of her nose like a bird of prey ready to dive. She wore an ill-fitting blazer and heels that clacked with theatrical precision every time she shifted in her seat. Next to her sat a USB stick she swore contained irrefutable evidence of a federal conspiracy. It was actually a mashup of conspiracy TikToks and ring cam clips of Jade mowing the lawn. Jade, on the other hand, looked exactly how you'd picture someone who'd taken down a smuggling ring while her neighbors pruned roses. Calm, composed, her badge barely catching the light under her jacket. She sat silent and still, waiting for her turn. The room wasn't packed, but it buzzed. Word had gotten out about the trial, mostly thanks to Karen herself. She'd been handing out flyers at the community pool titled Karen versus the Deep State. The truth they don't want you to hear, complete with a picture of her zip-tied on a lawn and the words patriot or victim in Comic Sans. Judge Mathis, sharp-eyed and already weary, opened the proceedings with the look of someone wondering if mental health copays could be billed to the court. Karen launched into her opening statement without being asked, ignoring formality and pacing like a flustered TV lawyer from daytime cable. She waved laminated charts, attempted to play an audio clip labeled Mind Control Hum, which turned out to be the neighbor's air conditioner, and accused Jade of everything from being a secret agent to a psychological warfare specialist bent on suburban collapse. When Jade finally stood to speak, she calmly stated her name, badge number, rank, and mission parameters with the kind of clipped authority that made the room go still. She outlined how Karen had interfered with an ongoing federal operation, compromised surveillance efforts, and jeopardized lives with her reckless behavior. She then submitted her own evidence, a curated set of public rants, security footage, and time-stamped recordings that showed a clear pattern of obstruction. She didn't crack a smile once. She didn't have to. Karen objected 16 times during the testimony. None were sustained. At one point, she slammed her hand on the table and yelled, "This is all theater." The judge, without looking up, replied, "Yes, and you're the only one overacting." The courtroom laughed. Karen went crimson. But the real damage was done when the prosecution rolled footage of her second zip tie incident, which included her ranting about mind control frogs and something she called neighborly psyops. That was the nail in the coffin. The jury didn't blink. The verdict came back fast. Guilty on 3 counts of obstruction, 1 count of assaulting a federal agent with a gardening tool, and 1 count of unauthorized surveillance. Her sentence: 6 months probation, 100 hours community service, mandatory anger management, and a permanent ban from participating in any HOA leadership. She tried appealing on the spot and was escorted out after calling the judge a government muppet. Jade didn't celebrate. She didn't smirk. She just turned to me and said, "Let's go home." In Jade's world, justice didn't come with confetti. It came with quiet resolution and a sigh of relief that no one got hurt. Back in the neighborhood, not much changed, but everything felt different. People moved with more caution, less judgment. Whispers spread about the bust, about the agent hiding in plain sight. Jade resumed her routines, though they now included more late-night calls and black SUVs. Her Charger stayed parked out front, a silent warning. Karen was gone within 3 weeks. The for sale sign went up the morning after sentencing. No rants, no flyers, just a quiet exit with her cousin and 2 movers who seemed relieved they didn't have to talk to her. Neighbors peeked from their windows, unsure whether to clap or breathe easy. I stood beside Jade on the porch, sipping coffee, and asked, "Does it feel over?" She shook her head. Not yet. Santiago Vega was still out there. Jade's former informant turned mystery ghost. He hadn't shown up in the paperwork. No sightings. Nothing. It gnawed at her. She hated loose ends. Loose ends get people killed. A month passed in peace. The landscaping crew finally started planting flowers instead of hiding things. The neighborhood found its rhythm again. Jade started sleeping in a bit, smiled more, even hosted a barbecue. Kept her holster on during dessert, though, which made for some odd small talk. Then, one Saturday, a new moving truck pulled up to Karen's old place. Neighbors pressed their faces to blinds, scanning for warning signs. Were the new folks normal? Would they actually keep up with lawn care this time? Jade and I stood across the street, watching. A young couple stepped out of the truck, smiling, casual, friendly vibes. The woman gave us a wave. The guy had on a ball cap, carrying a box labeled kitchen stuff. That's when I saw it. The car. Black. Sleek. Tucked behind the moving truck. The license plate said, "Fed for life." I elbowed Jade, but she was already locked in. She narrowed her eyes at the tag, then looked at the guy. No clenched jaw. No sudden movements. She just let out a slow breath and said, "Either he's an ally, or he's a damn good adversary." He glanced up, locked eyes with Jade, then smiled. Jade smiled too. Not the soft kind. Not friendly. It was that calculated kind of grin, like 2 chess players who know the board just got interesting again. The neighborhood might have settled back into peace, but that didn't mean the battle was over. Calm didn't mean secure. And not all ghosts disappear. Some just wait for the perfect moment to come home.